Thank you all for joining us today. Mr. Personal Support Worker, Mr. Parent,
Hey everyone.
and of course our supervisor, Mr. Jared. I'm glad we could all get together to discuss Winston and the best way moving forward to support him with his communication. He's been using facilitated communication for the past 10 years, as we all know. And however, we have some evidence that suggests that facilitated communication may not be the best option moving forward for Winston. Our social worker, Mr. Jared, is going to explain some of the benefits of transitioning from facilitated communication to functional communication. Thanks for your introduction, Mr. Supervisor. That's correct. There is evidence suggesting that facilitated communication could be the personal support worker subconsciously guiding the learner's communication. Here is a couple articles. The first one is by 10, and that explains and highlights the effective communication using picture exchange for persons with autism, which we would like to transition into. There's also a second article by Durand that's going to help with the training of the functional communication on assistive devices. So you guys could give that a read after our meeting today and let me know if you have any questions. Excuse me for interjecting, but Winston's been communicating so well with facilitated communication. Why do we need to change things now?
Yeah, and Winston's comfortable with it. We don't want to be upsetting him by taking away a method of communication that works.
I agree with the concern about changing what works. However, we also need to consider the long-term implications of facilitated communication. We want to make sure that Winston has the best possible chance to communicate with others and live a fulfilling life. Facilitated communication may have worked for a while, but we need to consider if it's the most sustainable in the long term. There's one last article that I hope you guys can take a second to read after the meeting, and it's by Wheeler et al. From 1993 that explains how persons who are supporting others using facilitated communication unknowingly determined what was being communicated. So now that we have the evidence that functional communication works and facilitated communication does not, we should be trying to provide Winston with the opportunity to be using what has been shown to be most effective. So what exactly is functional communication and what will it look like? Functional communication has been shown to be a more effective method of communication for people with autism. So it involves teaching them to use words and pictures and gestures to communicate their wants and needs. Winston will be using his iPad and a specific program on the iPad that provides him with the language he needs to be able to communicate effectively. I see what you're saying, but how do we know that Winston will be able to learn a new method of communication? What if he can't do it?
That's true, yeah. We don't want to set Winston up for failure.
I understand your concern, but we have to believe that Winston is capable of learning new things. With the right support and training, I think we can use functional communication to help Winston communicate more effectively. I agree. It's important that we approach this transition with patience, support, and understanding. We're going to work closely with Winston and to ensure he has the tools he needs to be able to communicate effectively. And we will provide the training and support to the staff who work with Winston to ensure they have the skills and knowledge they need to facilitate the use of functional communication. Okay, I think I understand where you're coming from. It's not about taking away what works, but about finding a sustainable and effective way for Winston to communicate going forward. Yes, and we will work together to make sure that Winston has the best possible chance to communicate independently and effectively, of course.
Now, I still have some reservations, but I'm willing to support this transition and see how it goes.
That's great to hear. Thank you all for your input and support. Let's work together to make this a successful transition for Winston. Thank you guys again for meeting up.